welcome to Pub Talk, the unofficial official craft beer podcast of Oklahoma, where we're all about the 3 Bs, beer buddies, and bullshit. I'm Jeremy, your legendary host, and I'm joined as always by a guy who will give you no snark as long as he gets some beer at Elgin Park, Michael.
Hello, hello.
On today's show, we're coming to you from one of the best places to grab a pint and a bite in downtown Tulsa, Elgin Park. We'll chat with their head brewer on what got him into craft beer and all things Elgin Park. Before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. And take a second to follow us on social media at Pub Talk Podcast. All right, let's get started. So, first, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We always like to start off these spotlight episodes just with letting you kind of introduce yourself, talk about what you do here.
Cool. So, my name's Ben Birney. I'm the head and lone brewer at Elgin Park downtown. So, my role encompasses everything to do with beer at the brewery, and I also help manage. So, occasionally, like on big nights, like with the McGregor fight, I was here helping out, making sure things run smoothly. So, but as we grow, I'm leaning about 99% into the brewery just because it's getting so busy. So that's basically my role.
Okay.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your history with Elgin Park, how you got started here?
It's actually kind of a fun story. So I got a call from my mom. So I was studying at the University of Arkansas when Elgin Park opened. And she said, hey, they're looking for a brewer. And I was like, well, I'm happy to apply. Just know that I'm not going to finish my degree. And that didn't go very well. So in 2016 is when they opened. They actually ended up hiring Austin McElroy, the head brewer for Cabin Boys now, with the intention that they knew he was going to always open his own brewery. So I came in, applied in June of 2017. I kind of talked with Eric Marshall a bit over the last year about, potentially working for him. I was graduating. He was keeping an eye out if he had some positions open. And as I got closer to graduation, he kind of told me, hey, I don't have a position open, but would you be interested in going to work at Elgin Park, training, and then becoming the only brewer there? And I was like, that's a dream come true. I love working in the service industry. I always have since I've been working when I was 16. So being able to work in the service industry and, eventually become the head brewer of a small brew pub, it was the stars aligned. So, at the time I had an offer between, Elgin Park and a brewery in Oregon. My fiance at the time planned on going to nursing school. So moving back home for both of us to Tulsa just seemed like the perfect way for us to kind of, start our careers and lives together. So it just kind of blended about as smoothly as possible. But I trained for about 3.5, 4 months under Austin McElroy, and then he went off to start Cabin Boys around October, November, and that's when I kind of took the reins. So,
Awesome.
So prior to coming here to brew at Elgin Park, you'd spent some time at Ozark, is that right?
Yeah, so I was a food science major at Arkansas. About my sophomore year, I started messing around with homebrew kits, and really, I've always been a process guy. I really love, whether it's barbecue, love cooking on a Hasty Bake with charcoal and having to be a part of the process. I got a homebrew kit, and I was like, I want to go full in. I want all grain, which to listeners that don't homebrew it's just kind of a more complicated, more authentic as to what bigger brewers do. And just kind of wanted to pick it up as a hobby, and I eventually grew to love it and grew kind of to love the culture around beer. And so from that point, I started applying at tap rooms before I was 21. I was homebrewing before I was 21. Ozark gave me a job, and I was like, just so you know, I'm not actually 21 yet. And they were like, oh, well, we'll keep you in mind. We'll come back to you if a position opens up, which I thought was just Marty, who's the head of the tap room over there. I thought that was just him being nice. Well, come 2 months after my birthday, he hits me up and he's like, hey, we'd love for you to work for us. So I worked for them for about 2 years, just in their tap room. Got to watch just some really excellent brewers make really good beer, and kind of solidified that that's kind of an industry I wanted to be a part of. Andy Coates over there is just a phenomenal brewer. Jesse Gagnon, who's now the West Mountain Brewing Company brewer down at Fayetteville Square. He was making some good beer there, and Brant Bishop. I mean, anyone who lives in Arkansas or goes over there is, agrees. They just make awesome products. So, that's kind of what led into it. So, definitely started with home brewing. got a kind of a sneak peek of a job, or worked in the industry for a bit, kind of a sneak peek of production, and then on to here. So
Nice.
Awesome. Can you talk to us a little bit about the beer that we have in front of us?
Absolutely. So this is the Italian Stallion. It's a dry hop pils. We used a malt from Weyermann called Heraclea, which is a Pilsner malt that actually grows north of Venice. So it's an Italian malt. I think the recipe is about 90% Italian malt, then a little Carahel, which is like a light caramel malt, just to kind of add a little body to it and foam retention. And then I used 100% Aramis hops in the boil and dry hop. Aramis is a French hop that you really don't see very often. I was at a brewing conference in March, and I tried like a Three Floyds beer with it, and I was like, I've got to use this hop for something. And I wanted to try this Pilsner malt, and so I thought it'd be a cool way to showcase both of them at the same time. So the Pilsner malt was sold out forever. The hops were sold out forever, and the stars really connected around, 2 months ago. And I was able to get everything in, brewed it, lagered it for about 3.5, 4 weeks. And usually I'll biofine beers, which is just a clearing agent that'll clear a beer in 2 or 3 days. And this, I didn't have any need to. It just cleared up brilliantly. Looks great. Super smooth, crisp. And the hops, I really didn't want to be too overwhelming. I think sometimes hoppy pilsners can almost be like, I'll drink 1 or 2 and I really like them, and then I'm like, all right, I'm switching to a pale ale and switching to something lighter. I wanted this to be a beer that it was subtle enough that you could just keep drinking them if you wanted something light. So I think we did a good job with it. So
yeah, really it's very good. Even at 9 in the morning. What? So we're always curious when we have somebody on the podcast for the first time, sort of the second time. We'll talk about that later. If you remember your first craft beer and like your epiphany beer where you went, I'm done with that other stuff.
Great question. Yeah. First one was probably a Blue Moon with my dad, if you want to count that, or a Boulevard Wheat. I think it was Boulevard Wheat.
Boulevard Wheat counts.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Blue Moons, that's a different story. But and I was, I think I was home from a school break or something like that, and asked the old man for a beer, which he was never one to just hand me a beer. And to my surprise, he was like, yeah, just go grab one of those. And I was like, oh, wow, like, this is not anything like any of the beers I've had. So from that point on, I would say sophomore year, freshman year, I was pretty domestic drinker in college.
Sure.
Sophomore year, my buddy and I had one of the upperclassmen go do a beer run for us, and we wanted a variety pack just to try a bunch of stuff. And upperclassman didn't really care to try. He's just like, I'm just getting these kids whatever. So he got us a 12-pack Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, and that was kind of the point that how many people that's their first beer, or the beer that is a tipping point? It's just a perfect beer. So at that point, it was like, oh, yeah, this is where I'm going to pursue drinking better beer, you could say.
Yeah.
I still love that beer.
Yeah.
That and Boulevard's Pale Ale, that's a sleeper beer.
Yeah.
I had a bunch of that when I was up in Kansas City in October. It's just so good.
Yeah, I'm going up there next week, and I can't wait to have Boulevard Wheat from the source.
Yeah, you go to Boulevard and you do the tour, and you're just like, well, I'm here. I got to have a Tank 7. I got to have a Wheat. I got to have a Love Child. And you're just like, oh man, I gotta watch myself.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite style or styles of beer to drink?
If I'm like post work, I've just brewed or did a whole lot of cleaning and stuff, I usually reach for like our Pilsner or something light, or we try to keep another light seasonal on, so that would be the Italian Stallion right now. That's what a lot of the staff and stuff have been drinking lately, myself included. I'm a very seasonal beer drinker. So winter times, I like lighter or darker stuff. If I'm at Mcnellys, I'm always have a Guinness in my hand, or something local that's darker that I haven't seen before. And if it's summer, yeah, I'm reaching for light Pilsner, cool. And that's the cool thing is all these breweries are offering Pilsners now. Yeah. And we have arguably the best lager brewery in the state about 5 minutes away from here in Marshall. So we're really fortunate in that aspect. I always thought I hated Pilsners until I had Volks. And I was like, oh, I don't hate Pilsners. I just don't like bad Pilsners. So.
Well, speaking of Marshall, I alluded to it a second ago. You've got a relationship with them. I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, We were doing a podcast with Eric, and you walked in.
Yeah.
That's kind of a nice full circle moment.
I think I walked in with like a super loud pallet jack, like click, 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 click.
I think the exact quote was, "You're running the fucking podcast."
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was.
But talk to us a little bit about the relationship with Marshall. I know you worked there a little bit in the tap room, and then you were picking up some materials there today.
Yeah, so Eric actually was very influential in this brewery. So when Elliot Nelson, the CEO of the Mcnellys Group, and him are great friends, and when they wanted to do a brew pub, they knew that he would be their best resource. So he was the one who designed the brewery. He's the one who brewed the first batch of beer here. He's still helpful if I ever need anything. So I always tell people, it's like, if I really messed up, I'd be less scared of my actual bosses and more scared of Eric, because I just have so much respect for him and I don't want to let him down. So, I mean, and he's just a great guy. Anyone who talks to him knows that. So we get a bunch of our supplies from them, and like slow pitch IPA. All the base recipes for the most part were his. A few of them have been adjusted since inception, but I always tell people, like, man, it doesn't get better than slow pitch, and that's 100% Eric right there. It's just him as a brewer who's been doing it forever. So he's not nearly as involved as he was whenever I first started, but he's still helpful and always willing to lend a hand if I need anything. So.
That's awesome. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of your other beers that people can get when they come to Elgin Park?
Yeah, so our year-round offerings, Put Me in Kolsch is our best seller. German Kolsch, all German ingredients, just super easy to drink ale. We got Performance Enhancing Pilsner, which is my favorite name on the seasonal list. Also a German Pilsner, about 30 IBUs, real light on, it's got like a nice little hop character to it on the nose, but still super crisp, very Pilsner-esque. The Lou Brown Ale, that's a lot of people's favorite name. It is a English brown ale. It's about 4.5%, so it kind of reminds a lot of people of Guinness, something that you can drink a lot of and not worry too much. We actually started serving it on nitro, so carbonated way lower, getting that kind of widget, or not the widget, the plate, the stout has a plate to kind of produce the bubbles for you, or the carbonation. So a lot of people have been really digging it since we switched over to that. It's just smoother. It's like the difference between, it's like tasting Guinness Draft and then tasting, I can't remember the name of it exactly, but it's the same recipe. They just serve it in bottles carbonated. It's just night and day. It's smoother. And so, we've been really happy with that. Then we've got Ride the Pine Pale Ale, pretty West Coast style pale ale. It's got a nice malt base to it. Centennial, Chinook, and Cascade, very original, kind of West Coast hops. Then we've got the Slow Pitch IPA, which is second best seller. And Citra and Cascade are at the forefront, and that's also pretty, West Coasty, just American hops, doing American hop things. So a little bit more citrusy, whereas Ride the Pine kind of has a more rounded malt base. The IPA kind of takes over and lets the hops really shine in that beer. So, but yeah,
awesome.
If I'm missing one, I'm going to feel really terrible, but I don't think I am. Albion Ale, that's the last one. So that's an English bitter. So that beer was actually first named Hey Bitter Bitter, and it wouldn't sell. And even though it was it's our staff's favorite beer. The staff love this beer. I love the beer. Is English bitter at about 4.5%. And when it was named Hey Bitter Bitter, everyone just assumed it was an IPA, but IPA people knew it wasn't. So we were like, we got to change the name. We've got an English regular whose favorite team was West Bromwich Albion. I'm a huge Everton fan, huge English soccer fan. So I wanted to make a name relating to Everton. And he came in and he's like, why not Albion Ale? And I just couldn't say no to that. It was just perfect. It was a guy who drinks that beer day in, day out. And so I was like, that's perfect coming from the guy who probably drinks more of it than any other customer. So just that beer has evolved more than any other based on supplies that we can get and whatnot. But I think we've really hit a solid grist with that one. European pale malt, some light crystal malt from England, and it's just a nice malty beer that a lot of amber drinkers really like. So, and I think that's something that we adjusted. It was a bit lighter, and now we kind of add a little bit more malt backbone, and so it's just a smooth malty beer that's great just about any time of year. So,
awesome.
You've done some special beers here, some of the barrel-aged stuff and everything like that. Do you have anything coming up that you can tell us about?
Yeah, we've got some fun stuff. So when I was in Kansas City, and it was October or November, we went up there with some of the Mcnellys group and Dusty, who's the sales guy for Boulevard in Oklahoma, kind of gave us some VIP tours of Boulevard, took us out, and showed us a great time in Kansas City. The next morning, we went to Rieger's Distilling and Union Horse Distilling, two like craft distilleries in Kansas City. Grabbed 2 barrels from each, loaded the Rieger's barrels with an Imperial Stout, one of the Union Horse barrels, which is a rye barrel with an Imperial Stout, and then one of the rye barrels has a barley wine that we're going to let sit and do its thing too. So we're really excited to have some good wood, and I don't want to speak too prematurely, but we've got some people in Vermont at a craft distillery picking out some barrels from the Mcnellys group, and we're hoping to get 3 barrels out of that deal from a rye distillery. So
Nice.
So the Mcnellys group will private label the bottles they select, and then hopefully we get those soaking wet barrels shipped with those bottles to the distributor, which we'll go pick up. So I'm really excited for those guys.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
And everyone's like, what are you going to put in them? And I'm like, I'm just still excited from the fact that we might get these barrels. So like, I don't even know what I'm going to put in them, but I'm leaning more towards something Belgian. So we haven't done a whole lot of Belgian beers here, and I want to change that.
Okay.
So.
Oh, we always like to talk to people about the beer festivals that go on around here. Do you have any that are favorites of yours to attend or pour at?
I would say I'm biased. I'm part of the Mcnellys group who put this one on, but I really love Harvest Festival. You see everybody there. It's always a good time. I really like Hop Jam too, and the weather's been great the last 2 years. That's just one that there is an absurd amount of beer at, and so Brian Fontaine is pretty influential. He's one of the Mcnellys group vice presidents in setting that one up. And the Hanson brothers, such great people. They're great they're so down to earth. So having people like that operating a beer festival is always helpful. And there's just so much good beer. I mean, there's a ton of good lambic there this last year. And you get a lot of breweries that you wouldn't get at smaller, closer festivals. So
yeah. So one of the things that's happened in the time you've been here at Elgin Park is the law changes that allowed you to brew a little stronger beer here. How's that been for you?
It's been fun. So it was something that I came in and was, kind of like, part of the gig. I have to deal with this for, like a year and a quarter or something like that.
Yeah, it's around that.
And, I first kind of looked at it as like, God, this is just something I have to deal with. And I really kind of hit stride as like, this is something I can take advantage of. We can brew styles that are traditionally lower, in alcohol that other breweries, people might be like, I'm not going to drink a 4% beer when they have full strength beer. So I kind of went about it in the positive light perspective and started to brew some really fun stuff. We did a Belgian single that, a lot of breweries just never think to brew. We did that and we had it out, I want to say it was actually about Hop Jam the year that the laws changed. So when is Hop Jam? May? Yeah, so that was the year that Sam Callione came.
Okay.
So when the Hansons did their dinner at the Bond and Sam was there talking about some Dogfish Head stuff, I had that beer on tap. So afterwards, if someone wanted a beer, you could buy one. And he kind of, he was drinking on the house. As a VIP.
As he should.
And I mean, that was cool because he's like, why would you brew like a 4% beer? And I'm like, actually, because we're a brew pub, we have we sell food, so we have to brew 4% until the laws change. And he was like, just kind of wanting to know more about it. And that was kind of cool getting to talk brewer to brewer to a guy that does not need to give me the time of day.
Right.
So, I mean, that was, really rewarding seeing people say recognize oh, that's cool that you went with a style that no one ever does. And so one that I wanted to do an English mild really bad. We never fit it in. But man, brewing some 4% wit beers and some 4% session IPAs. And we did a New England IPA called Willie Mays Hayes that, at 4%, we bumped it up to about 5.5, but at 4%, people still gripe at me that we don't do it again at that. So I'd like to do that beer again, but we'd have to change the name or something because we did an 8% version. There's too many Willie Mays Hayes with different ABVs going around. So, but it really, when I first went into it, I was kind of bummed out. And then I realized, I can take the bull by the horns and do some really cool stuff. So we kind of thrived under it. And when the laws changed, it was even better. So we had some cool beer releases to go with that. We had a barrel-aged stout and an 8% Willie Mays when the laws changed. So now we still like to stay pretty sessionable. Being a sports bar, people are in here for 3-4 hours rather than brewery hopping. So we want people to be able to enjoy themselves responsibly and have good crushable beers. So we always aim to have a seasonal on that's really sessionable and easy to drink.
Nice.
Speaking of brewery hopping, do you have any favorite tap rooms or breweries you like to visit, either locally or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not one that I can say that I don't enjoy going to in Tulsa, which is just part of the scene. I mean, everyone has their own style, and that's what makes it unique. You don't feel like you're going to every time you go to a new one, it's very much their own. So that's a big respect to Tulsa scene and all that. Some of my rotations, Marshall's, which is partially because I work there occasionally, and then Heirloom. I know Jake fairly well. He's a great guy and makes killer beers and beers that you wouldn't see elsewhere. One of my good friends, Chris Hayes, works at American Solera, so I'll go in there and give him a hard time. It's one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, I mean, Glen over at Renaissance, that's a cool little spot. And I'm gonna miss all sorts of friends. Now I'm gonna miss all my friends. I'm gonna get in trouble. But I mean, I like going to all of them. I'm ashamed to say I haven't made it down to Broken Arrow. I've had quite a few of their beers and love them. But being a Midtowner, it seems like I'm going to the wilderness. Yeah. Even though I grew up in Broken Arrow, I moved to Midtown. Now I'm in my own little bubble. Yeah. But those guys are great. And every time I'm at a festival, I'm trying whatever new they're making, and it's always good. So.
I know. So obviously a lot of great beer here, but there's a lot of good food too. Can you talk to us about if you have any favorites on the menu here and maybe some like beer and food pairings?
Yeah, for sure. My favorite, let's start with my favorite menu items, then I'll go to beer pairings.
Okay.
So I would say if you're coming here and you're wanting a quick appetizer or something to share, the Stadium Pretzel, big, baked pretzel with some beer cheese, what we use our Albion Ale with, and some like really nice whole grain mustard. Just excellent. I mean, I can take one of those down in one sitting and then just feel really guilty about it. Along with that, the brisket poutine fries. We've got a whole menu of loaded fries from carne asada, bacon cheese fries, chili cheese fries. But I think the brisket poutine takes the cake. So it's got cheddar cheese curds, smoked brisket, and this like poutine gravy that is just out of this world. Zach and I, one of the managers here, we'll take down a plate of that, and people just like look at us like we're just such slobs, but it's so good, and especially when you're sharing it with people. And then, man, it's kind of funny. We were looking at the product mix and what we sell, and we kind of were joking. It's like, man, we're a wing place disguised as a pizza place. Our wing sales are a lot of months higher than they are pizza, and so our hot buffalo wings, I eat those really regularly. The chili lime wings, we've got a bunch of wet and a bunch of dry wings. We also got boneless and cauliflower. I'm not a big cauliflower wing fan, but man, do people eat those up. Especially vegetarians, they love it. Pizza-wise, I'm going with the spicy pie. We got pickled peppers, jalapenos. We got a spicy, like honey sriracha drizzle that we finished that thing with. That is so good. Got the New Haven traditional. So our pizza is actually a New Haven styled pizza out of New Haven, Connecticut. It's a long, thinner crust. And traditionally it's made with just pizza sauce, pecorino cheese, which it looks like a Parmesan whenever you're putting it onto the pizza. And as it melts, it kind of becomes more of a traditional look to a pizza. And it gets a little bit crisper. It cooks a little quicker. And maybe put a little oregano on there. I mean, that's a super awesome pie in itself. But yeah, and when it comes to beer pairings, it does not get better than the chili lime wings with a performance-enhancing Pilsner.
Okay.
When Chef Ben Alexander with the Mcnellys group, I think it was Trevor Tack at the time, came out with those, and I had one of them, and I was like, I instantly knew what beer to reach for, and I had it, and it was just like heaven. Gotcha. So that's my favorite pairing. Man, like the chicken Alfredo pie with like slow pitch is a really good one. When I'm eating like hot wings, I like to keep it light, so I'll go like Kolsch or if we have one of our light seasonals going. I'm not a big hoppy beer and spicy food guy. I know a lot of people like to blend those two. Yeah. I feel like I can't taste anything. Maybe that's just me. But But yeah, and then if I'm doing like poutine, brisket poutine, Lou Brown all the way. Match some savory with something thicker and bolder, and that's always delightful.
Awesome. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Hasty Bake Bowl that's coming up here?
Yeah, it's funny. So I've told a few people this, but so I'll start with it. So the Hasty Bake Bowl is going to be Super Bowl Sunday. It's a fundraiser for Muscular Dystrophy Association. I worked with them when I was in college. I was in a fraternity that I was a philanthropy chair for 3 years. So MDA is kind of personal to me. I had a grandpa die of ALS, and I have a cousin with MD. So it's always something that's been personal, and when it was with my fraternity, it was just a chance to raise money for a great organization that do a lot of great things and put a lot of money into research and such. So worked with them for 3 years at Arkansas. Got in touch with them a few years ago and did like a $1 a beer night, and after that, just kind of lost touch. Well, one of my best friends from high school, she actually ended up working for MDA. I posted on her Facebook, I was like, hey, if you guys want to do a fundraiser with us, like, you let me know. We'll make it happen. So we finally met. I figured we'd do a beer where we gave them $1 out of it. JL Lewis, our general manager, was like, no, let's do an event. And then he was like, let's do it on Super Bowl Sunday. And I was just like, and he's like, and you're going to make it happen. So I was like, okay. So we kind of had a round table. Ben Alexander came up with some good ideas. Nick Corcoran was very influential. And we kind of came together with a barbecue a barbecue competition that was structured around barbecue guys that wanted to do a competition that was a bit more relaxed, no holds barred, no strong categories where they're trying to get their ribs perfect and they're getting judged on every little shrivel of that. So we're like, let's do, it's Super Bowl Sunday, let's do a tailgating kind of specific food. So we'll do an appetizer, a side dish, and a protein or like an entree. And it's no holds barred. If these guys want to bring filet mignon and get after it, they're more than welcome to. If they want to bring, like Rotel and Velveeta and get after it, like, cool. So we'll have that aspect, which is just a competition with judges. And then we'll also have a People's Choice, where the public can come. It's $20, gets you a commemorative Frisbee that you'll use as your plate. You'll get all you can eat food from all these amazing cooks who, most of these guys who are competing have been cooking on Hasty Bakes for 20, 30 years, and they're diehard fans, and they can just make phenomenal food. So, yeah, $20 gets you the Frisbee, gets you all you can eat food from these master cooks, and a beer as well. And you'll get a vote for People's Choice, and that's where the biggest cash prize is for these competitors. So I'm competing in it. I'm definitely aiming to win. I've got a buddy who I converted into a Hasty Bake loyal guy. So I'm trying to recruit Ben Alexander on my team to kind of get a little bit of an edge. So, but yeah, we're really excited about it. So yeah, noon to 2 is when we're doing the People's Choice. We've got Eventbrite tickets up on Mcnellys group Facebook and the Elgin Park Facebook. That's just a link, and you can buy your tickets, or you can buy them at the door. And we'll have the award ceremony for the judge barbecue, or the judge tailgating food competition around 3. And then during the Super Bowl, we're actually raffling off 2 different Hasty Bakes. We're raffling off a Legacy 131 and a Ranger. So the Legacy is kind of the flagship model. It's about a $1,000 grill. $10 raffle tickets get you a chance to win that at halftime. The Ranger is about the greatest thing that's ever been invented. It's a tailgate model. It's all stainless steel. I told my wife that it's going to be up for grabs in my kids' inheritance one day. The kids that I don't have yet, because that thing, if you take care of it, will last more than a lifetime. So we're really excited that Hasty Bake is getting so involved. I mean, they are fully in. They're fully supportive, especially with such a great charity that we're working with. So it's going to be a great time, and we're releasing more information about it as it gets closer. But yeah, it's something that really was just supposed to be a $1 a beer for a charity, and it evolved into this big old event on Super Bowl Sunday. So, don't worry about cooking. Don't worry about having friends over, because I know if we had a party for Super Bowl, I'd just stress my wife out. So, you can come in, you can drink great beer, support a really good organization who's doing a lot of great things, and have a chance to win some really amazing grills for, $10. So, we're really excited. And a little stressed out, seeing as I'm kind of like directing everything, but it's every I step back and I look at the people that I'm working with, and it's always worth it. So
Right on. So you guys have this great location right across the street from a baseball field, One Oak Field. Can you talk to us a little bit about maybe the relationship there? Do they carry Elgin Park beer over there?
They do not. So we don't distribute really. Okay. And so because of that, it's something that we're getting to the point where we're brewing so much beer here. We would hate to have accounts that we couldn't provide beer. Okay. So I mean, our production from 17 to 18 was up 25%, and that's a lot of beer. And so as we get to where we are fully at our production capacity, it's all coming out of here. So we would hate to open up a bunch of accounts. They would probably be our number one our first customer. Sure. Excuse me. We've got a great relationship with those guys. They come in all the time for lunch and talk shop, and we love the organization and the Roughnecks organization now, Tulsa FC. So they don't currently carry our beer, but we definitely, it's a very good relationship. All their fans come here before and after, and we love to show them a good time. And we're always over at those games too. So it's a great relationship, and I can't say enough good things about the Drillers organization. And man, when Kershaw played, it was madness this last season. So, and I think they want to do more concerts, like with the Jack White thing. Okay. That was a blast when we did that. I worked my tail off managing that night, and I was sitting having a beer. Told my wife I'd be home probably about 8:30. I think it was 10:30 at this point. And we had just gotten done, and someone walks up and is like, "Does anyone want tickets to this? I've got an extra." And I was like, "I do, but I better call the wife." And I was like, "Hey, I love you. Can I go into this?" And she's like, "I've got studying to do, whatever." And I was like, "Thank you." Nice. So I got to see Jack White that night. But man, they do a lot of cool things, and we're happy to have them as neighbors.
Awesome. Do you have any other upcoming events here at the brewery?
At the moment, not off the top of my head. Just going to be the Hasty Bake Bowl, Super Bowl Sunday. But we're really hoping to pack the house out for that. Awesome. So keep tuned in. But I guess we should say March isn't too far away. Yeah. Seems like it's really far away with all that's going on, but March isn't too far away. We always do like a block party for March Madness. Okay. We hire a truck to come out with just the biggest TV screen you've ever seen, block off the streets, have our tables. We had a big old party bar outside, and so it's always a great time whenever that rolls around. People get off work early, they come in, eat great food and have a beer, and then St. Patrick's Day. So Mcnellys group is famous for that, having their block party. We also get a big hit, so we're hoping to get a dry Irish stout in by then. But I'm at the mercy of production, and so we'll see if I can squeeze them in, but that's the goal.
Awesome.
Right on. Anything else you want to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Off the top of my head, no. Just keep an eye out. We'd love for you guys to like us and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Hasty Bake, information's all on the Facebook, so we'll do some more Eventbrite shout outs on that and everything. But we'd love to see people out here raise money for a great organization. 100% of that $20 goes to MDA from the purchase of the all-you-can-eat food and the tasting plate and your ballot for people's choice. So we're pumped about that.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Yeah.
That guy said, "Don't let the door hit in the vagina on the way out." That was hilarious.
Good idea.
You've just listened to another round of Pub Talk. Thanks again to Ben with Elgin Park for having us out today. Make sure you follow them on social media for the latest and greatest, and stop by the next time you're in downtown Tulsa. As always, if you've liked what you heard today, show some love all over social media at Pub Talk Podcast, and to continue getting alerts every time we drop an episode, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button before you go. You can also find out all you've ever wanted to know about the show and more by heading over to our website, pubtalkpodcast.com. And remember, folks, there's never anything too big or hard in life that you can't handle it over a few beers with your good friends. So until next time, just chill to the next episode.